welcome back to the channel. Obviously this video is going to be a lot different than my normal videos. If you're new here, if this is your first time just clicking on the channel, this is a homesteading vlog, a farm vlog. So I'm usually outside taking care of the animals, giving updates, working on small projects, just whatever I'm doing that day. I just take you along with me in the videos. But today we are in my office because I was thinking I wanted to try to answer a question for you that I used to ask myself before I started this journey, and that is, can I really start this farm life after 40 with no experience? Now, when a lot of people think about farm life or country living, they know there's a lot of hard work involved. We know that farm kids are really strong, and the chores build a lot of character, and they learn more about the facts of life, just life and death and the cycle of life and everything. But I feel like more people focus on things like a simpler life, a quiet life. They envision themselves sitting under a shade tree in the hottest part of the summer, listening to the birds, just trying to get away from all the noise. And while those moments are real, I think starting farm life after 40 with no experience is a lot different than what people imagine. So when I started my journey, I started in my early 40s. I think I was 43, 42, 43, 44, I don't know, somewhere in there. And so I have a little bit of experience in not having experience and starting late. And let's talk about that. So I knew that it would be more difficult for me to start with no experience because I knew that I was way behind. There was a lot of things that I didn't know. The only experience that I had, other than the only hands-on experience that I had was raising dogs or cats or even horses. I had a horse or two when I was younger in my teenage years. I still don't know a thing about horses, and that's why I don't have any today, but they were there. So I really didn't have a whole lot of experience with different kinds of species of animals. I certainly didn't know about cows or pigs or peacocks. I have a peacock. But I hadn't raised chickens before. I had a parakeet as a pet, if that counts for anything. But I didn't know any of that, and I didn't have any construction background. Like I don't know how to build things. I don't know how to fix things. So everything that I did when I moved out onto my first 10 acres of land was a brand new experience. And the only thing you can do is just dive in there. So the land that I moved onto was mostly wooded, which I liked. But I have since moved, and so I'm on a piece of property that is more pasture than wood, more pasture than trees. I don't know if you could call any of this wooded, but so it was mostly wooded, and it came right up to the house. It was kind of overgrown. It was a lot overgrown. And so one of the first things that I had to do was clear it out. And the first thing I noticed about that was I wasn't as in shape as I thought I was when I was sitting in a house in the city. And I would go out and mow my own yard and weed eat my own yard in the city. But when I got out there and started actually doing more work, there's a lot more work to do. When you get land, the work is never done. When you get animals, it's even harder. It's even more work, and nothing ever is completed. And so what I'm trying to get across to you, if this is something you're considering and you've not done it yet, is that the work is very physically demanding. It is more than what you think it is. If you're in good shape, you're in good shape. You could probably get in there and do it easier than I could. But it was very hard, and it is still very hard, and it continues to get harder. And that's something that you need to consider as you think about taking on this journey, taking on this responsibility. As you get older, it does get harder, but hopefully along the way, you have set up systems to make it easier so that as you age, you can still get things accomplished. You can still do what you need to do to get, to have a working homestead or farm. Now, I'm not going to get into, the systems that I'm referring to. I'm not going to get into the hows of anything because I'm still trying to learn the hows for one thing, but that's not what this video is about. I just want you to be thinking. I just want you to listen and to really pay attention to how difficult it is. Now, I said that, I am still here. I have more land than what I started out with. I have more animals than what I started out with. So there is hope. Don't go anywhere. There is hope. It's hard. It's really hard. I ain't gonna lie. When I first started out, I had a teenage son living with me. Now I don't. It's just me. I do hire a couple of teenage boys come in and help me every now and then. And if you have that ability, that makes things so much easier. So that also leads me to my next section, and that is the cost. Again, this is something that I know people consider, but they don't realize how expensive this lifestyle is. It has come to the point in our world where it is easier not to live like our ancestors did, not to live like my grandparents did. It didn't take long for us to get away from our way of living, but that's where we are now. It's easier to live in the city for a lot of reasons. This video is just to help you to keep in mind and to better understand the difficulties out there. It's not to help you figure out how to get around the difficulties. So the first obvious difficult part of starting this lifestyle financially is the home and the land. People have different ways, different means of doing that. You don't have to start out with 40 acres. You don't have to start out with 10 acres or even 5 acres. You can homestead on 2 and 3 acres. As a matter of fact, it's really surprising how much you can do on 2 or 3 acres. But I'm sitting on 20 acres now. I started with 10, I've moved, and now I am on 20 acres. I'm alone and I have more animals. So hang in there, but hear me, because it is hard, it is expensive, and it's dangerous. And so when you look at the prices of things, the next biggest expense would be your buildings, your outhouses, your fencing and things like that. That's assuming that you have water. You need water, rural water or well water or both, which I have both. But you need to make sure you've secured a way to take care of yourself and of your animals. And so then after that would be your fencing. So I knew it would be expensive with the buildings and the fencing and all of that, and any equipment that I might need. But what I didn't expect, now this is kind of a small expense in comparison to other things, but what I didn't expect is things like my car insurance went up. The price of car insurance. Another thing to consider is gas, wear and tear on the vehicles. These are minor things in comparison to the whole picture, but these are things that you need to consider. You need to know what you're getting into if you decide to do it. Oh yeah, my utilities went up. My cost of my utilities went up. At least the water did. The water, I'm on septic, so, but you have to take care of your septic tank. That would be another expense. But like rural water is more expensive and it's less reliable. Or at least in this area, it's more expensive and less reliable. More expensive than where I came from. Like I said, I do have almost said well as well. I do have well water. I use the well water to water the animals, and my home is hooked up on rural water. And so that's what I use. My well is hooked up to the house. We did run lines to the house in case something happens to their water, then I can switch over to the well water. But as it is right now, I have both. I can afford both. So there we go, I'm using both. If you're going to get animals, if you're gonna run a ranch or something, homestead with animals, the cost of the animal itself is not the most expensive part of it. The cost of the animal is usually the least expensive, unless you're talking about registered cattle or horses or whatever. But the most expensive part of the animal outside of the shelter and fencing is vet bills and feed. And so in the summertime, for me, my bills go down considerably when it comes to feeding the animals because they're on grass. They still have to have minerals. They still have to, at times, be dewormed. Sometimes something will happen, somebody will get hurt and they need vet care. But as far as, and I'm just talking about the farm animals, the dogs are more expensive in the summer because of the flea and tick medicine and all that they have to get during the summertime, and the cats. But as far as livestock go, it's generally cheaper in the summer than it is in the winter, because in the winter you have to buy feed and you have to buy hay. And that's even if you're going to do rotational grazing and all that. Good luck with that, though. That's it's a lot more work, a lot more fencing, and a lot more time. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with rotational grazing. There's not. It's good practice. It's a good idea. It's good husbandry. But I'm just saying it's more expensive. You have to buy more fencing, whether electric or permanent fencing or whatever it is you do. And then you're out there in the weather more often. And so I'm just saying it is harder, but it is better practice. When you go back to talking about vet care, I mentioned briefly about sometimes you have to have medical care for your animals. If you have larger animals, you're going to have a trailer or access to a trailer and truck, and that's expensive. Vet bills are expensive, but if you're going to have animals, you're going to have eventually vet bills, and you need to make a decision. What's your limit? At what point is it not worth it to have those vet calls? Now, some people can get out into this easy life and country living by raising orchards, apples, or I don't even know. I can't even think of what kind of orchards there are out there. The first thing that comes to mind is like an apple orchard, or maybe peach or pear or something like that. Good for you. That's not what I have going on. But it is a way. That is a way to get into the simpler life out in country, out on country living on smaller acreage is by having trees. And yeah, probably cheaper, safer for sure. What you don't need to count on every year is paying your bills, or even some of your bills, with your cash crop. The markets fluctuate so often from year to year. It doesn't matter what you're growing, it fluctuates. And so you never know from year to year what you're going to make, what you're going to make back, what kind of profit you're going to make. But in addition to that, there are loss. There's animals die, floods come in and destroy crops, plant crops, and you just never know from year to year what's going to happen. So you can't solely rely on your crops to pay any or all of your bills. And truthfully, on like a small farm, small homestead, hobby farm, whatever it is, when you sell, it usually is just enough to go back into maybe hay or feed or medical needs for the animals. It goes right back into your system. And so that leaves no profit. So you need to have a way to pay for that. And a lot of people, if they're at the end of their working stage, now 40 is not there, but it's not far from there. You're getting there pretty quickly. You need to have a way to continue your lifestyle. So the last few minutes, a large portion of the video, I have discussed different things that cost money, and I'm trying to get across to you that this lifestyle is expensive. You have to have a way to afford it. You can't just, I guess you can. It costs something though. It's going to cost your labor, or it's going to cost your money from you going to work, one way or the other. You can make this life easier or cheaper. And there's, you're giving up one for the other. That's just the way it is. But another thing to consider is when you go to purchase land, or, if your home, your homestead, your farm, whatever, you need to consider how far out you are from medical facilities. Because as you age, and even when you're younger, you're out in the field, you're out working with tractors, you're out working with livestock. Livestock are unpredictable, but you're getting older and things happen to your body. Your body doesn't work like it used to, and you need more checkups than you used to, and it will continue like that, or at least that's the tendency. You need to consider how far you are from an ambulance or a hospital or a walk-in clinic and stuff like that. And I didn't intend for this to happen, but let me just real quick plug in the description below. I do have a link to Jace Medical, and Jace Medical provides an emergency supplies of antibiotics and your chronic daily medication. So if you want to go check out that link below, it is an affiliate link. If you make a purchase, I will get a commission. But like I said, that was unplanned, but it fit right in, so I'll put that plug in there. So in your 40s, it's a little bit more difficult than your 30s, but as you move towards the end of your 40s and your 50s, it gets a lot harder, and in your 60s and however long you do it, you can do this. Most of our farmers, the average age of our farmers is like something like 58 point something, the average age of farmers in the US. And so our farmers are actually getting older. So you can farm. It's that doing it without experience is going to be rough. Getting that learning experience. You can read all the books. You can go to school and get a degree. We have the computers. We have AI now. We have a lot of resources that the previous generation didn't have access to, although they did have their parents. But we do have a lot of resources, and there's YouTube. Be careful on YouTube, getting advice from YouTube, but it is possible, but it's harder. And I want you to know that the two main things is your body's getting older, it's going to get harder, and two, it is expensive. One other thing that I didn't count on is that with each year, the coldest parts of the year are harder for me to handle. Hot parts are harder too, but for me, the cold is harder. So here we are at the end of July right now. This is July 22nd, 2026, and I am already planning, thinking, and moving animals for the winter. I'm already thinking about getting the feed ready, the hay ready. I'm already getting rid of some animals so that I don't have as many to take care of, because my body doesn't handle the cold like it used to. So it is possible. Just do your research and take your time and have everything in order. Have a plan. It doesn't have to be the right plan, because as you get used to your land, you'll see other ways, but constantly be thinking of ways of how to make that easier next year when I'm another year older. And one more thing, that tree, that shade tree that people envision sitting under in the hot sun, listening to the birds, getting away from the noise, it's there, but it's only comfortable to those who have been out in that hot sun first, because there's still spiders and snakes and chiggers, and it's still in the heat of summer. So if you've come out from the air conditioner, that shade's not as comfortable as it looks, but those of us who have been out there in that sun, it's really welcoming. So thank you for watching this video. If you're interested in homesteading vlogs, if you want to get ideas by watching my mistakes, not what to do, please hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.